Welcome to the Thrivers Conversation with Aaron T. Aaron. Today's guest is Aisha Yesufu. This will be a 7-part edition. This is part 4 of 7. Aaron T. Aaron and Aisha will be having a conversation today around courage and womanhood. Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron T. Aaron and Aisha Yesufu.
I've been struggling to find a way to come in because I've just been laughing behind. In fact, my throat got stuck at some point. Well done, Aisha. I'm sure we have we have so many questions. Getting ready to come. All right, so I'm gonna try. Once again, thank you so much. Oh, you're ready.
Yeah, with my
question for you actually. At what point in your upbringing did the nuts get loosed in your brain?
All my life. You know what I normally say? I was born with drugs. You know how people need to get drugs to be high? I was actually born high in my life, and that's the way I've always been. And if I just say, you know, a lot of the things that people do in their, maybe or never do in their lives, during their life, I did it as a child. So as a teenager, I was thinking about life. Who am I? The question, who am I? I discovered who I was before I was like 13. As I was reading motivational books, I was reading books on psychology. In short, I read so much. To be an, is it atheist? Yes, atheist, right? Because I'm always missing that pronunciation. My kids are always making fun of me. So I started reading books on whether God ever existed when I was like less than 14 years. And I remember my father would be like, oh, you need to pray, you know, you need to do this so that when you die, you're going to go to heavens and and I'm like, and I wanted to my dad, heavens must be very boring if everything is going to be given to you. And I was reading these books where they were saying, oh, when you believe in God, it means it's like chasing a black cat in a black room and all of that. So these are things that people do as adults. I did them as a young girl. So I was able to arrive at a place. That's why I do what I want to do. For example, hijab. I wear my hijab. I started wearing hijab in 1992. I think I was 17, 18 then when I started wearing. And I don't care for people's validation, if I may put it that way. So I own myself. I'm like, this is what I need to do. And that's it. So I did a lot of things that many people probably never get to do in their lives at a very young age. So yeah. I knew who I was. And so that was just it.
Nice. Let's take the question there because I know a lot of people want to ask questions, so I don't want to miss out on their questions. So someone is asking, how does one re-engineer from the norm and just have, because guys, I mean, we can celebrate. What I see Aisha represent this evening is freedom. It takes a certain level of freedom to be able to speak like this and just be free with yourself. And I think someone is listening and asking, how does one reset? How can one come away from the norm and experience this true freedom?
So how does one do that is first of all to sit down, look in the mirror, find a place and ask yourself, who am I? You need to know who you are. You need to know what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. You need to first of all accept yourself. So on that discovery, and I said, when I talk to people and we're working on this, sometimes I have some of my mentees, I say it can be the most painful experience that you go through. Just first of all, learning who you are and accepting. You know, a lot of us, there's something we put out to the world. There's what you want the world to see. And most people, what their outside is different from their inside. So that's why you find a lot of conflict where people are not finding a place where they are happy with themselves. So you need to get to the place where first of all go inward and ask yourself who you are. Allow yourself to embrace the real you, and then allow the world to see the real you. And from there you begin to set to say, no, it's not about what people say. It's about who you are. It's about what you want, and stop hiding from the world. Many people are hiding from the world, and that's the reason why you find out that they are bottled up, they are angry, they're not finding that true happiness because they've not allowed themselves to fly. I say to people, what you see on the outside, my outside matches my inside. If I'm angry, I'm going to be angry. Aaron, you can make me angry right now. I'm going to go off the hook. This me when the sister they speak grammar, na go change face. I go play for na here. After I don't play 3 minutes, I'll be done. Because at that moment, you're not saying something and I'm holding it in. I'm trying to, I want to be Aisha that is seen as a, a composed. But no, I can't be composed. If you go crazy, no, when you take your food. So you need to get to a place where you are in acceptance with yourself so that you can allow the word see in and out. And it comes from, first of all, you understanding yourself, accepting yourself, then allowing the word to be, to see who you are and just take it off from there. Then we talk. The thing is that before I just round up on this, the people will talk. But the thing that whatever you do, people will always talk. So it is better you get yourself where you are happy with yourself while they are talking, rather than you still be unhappy with yourself and they are still talking.
So I actually like the question on screen, and I'll paraphrase before I get to that question, because I'm a Christian, I'm a man of faith, you're a person of faith. Somebody saw I was on Zoom today and somebody saw the flyer for the first time and the person said, "Is that a Muslim? Is that a Muslim?" I said, "Yes." "What, is she coming to your show?" I said, "Yes, she's coming to my show." But now I'm just saying this question, and this is a very good question. Even though I know the answer, the person says the question, but I still have to ask. Can I say the question? I still have to ask. Where have you been before now? Because as a Muslim woman, I'm surprised at how brave and courageous you are and how you are able to express yourself so beautifully. I'm telling you,
so for me now,
anyway, but go on.
As a Muslim woman, one of the things I've been able to do is knowledge. And I think I forgot to mention that knowledge is important. As much as possible, get that. Read books. It's not to be gisting about what kind of wrapper are you going to sew, what kind of cloth. I think I missed that in the talk I gave. It's very important to have knowledge. Knowledge, they say, is power. It's powerful. So that helps you when they come with some of the things they try to do, because the patriarchy we have in the society, sometimes it doesn't even come from religion. It comes from people just using their custom to ensure that voices are kept down. And when I say to a lot of people that as a Muslim woman, I can decide to breastfeed my kids or not, and people are always surprised. I say, yes, Islam gives me the right to say that, okay, I don't want my boobs to sag. Excuse my language. I don't want my breast to sag. So because of that, I'm not going to breastfeed my children. We go and get a wet nurse. It's allowed, but many people don't do that. So if we don't get the knowledge, you will not know the things that are allowed in Islam or are not allowed in Islam, whatever religion it is. So knowledge is very important. And for me, that was one of the things I used a lot. Even as a little girl, when my parents would be like, "Oh, this, that," I was always quick to quote out, "Okay, this knowledge, this from this from that." And it helped a lot. So I know that I have my voices, because as women in Islam, we are allowed our voices. Even during the time of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a lot of women, when they had issues they were uncomfortable about or they didn't like, they always had they came together and they went to accost the prophet, and they sent a representative to say these are the things being done to women, and they felt which weren't right. And so it's allowed in Islam. It's part of the things but you find out that people's culture and custom, they use that to overshadow the religion and make things seem as if women are not supposed to say anything.
Good stuff. Now, so considering your background, and I mean, especially in the country you grew up, do you think women surrounding you as a young girl had platforms to speak? Even though I don't think you had platforms to speak, you literally created your own platform. And so how did people try to suppress you? Because for someone like me growing up, I was told I was a talkative. So let alone you being a woman, right? So how did you break out of all that norm where society, family, everybody would have tried to suppress your voice growing up? How did that impact you? And what happened to you that you were still able to stay you, true to you, and not the confirmation, and still be a voice today?
So what part of the things that I did was I never asked for permission from anybody. And even as a child, I was never one that sought for anybody's validation. So I was not interested in those words of being called, "Oh, you are a good child." So I was never the child that was called a good child. "Oh, this guy, she's too stubborn." That was what I heard. "Oh, you behave like a man. You are a lady. You're supposed you are a woman. Why are you behaving like a man?" and all of that. I heard that a lot. But I was one who gave myself permission to speak. and I spoke irrespective. And honestly, I didn't care whether anybody, I know it might sound bad now. Sometimes I look back like, oh my goodness, how did my parents even cope with me? Because I was quite a handful. And I didn't mind. I was beaten a lot. It got me into a lot of trouble, and I was flogged a lot. But guess what? When you're flogging me, I'm not going to move an inch. I'm not going to move a muscle. I'm going to stand ramrod straight. When you finish flogging me, I'll just move away. So that was the kind of a child that I was. So because I never sought validation. So if, for example, something, let me give you an illustration of this. There was a moment that my father accused me of something. I can't even remember what it is right now. And I didn't do it. And I said to my dad, I didn't do it. But he didn't believe me. Well, I left it at that. At the end of the day, they found out it was one of my cousins who had done it. And so we're all gathered as a family. My aunts were there, my mom, my dad, and all of that. And I said to my dad, you wronged me and you need to apologize to me. Wow. And then apparently that was like, I was less than 15 when this happened. And that was like an abomination in my culture, that if a child shouldn't say that the father had wronged her. And so my father was quite angry with me, and he stopped talking to me. And well, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I didn't do anything wrong. And in the morning, I would go to my father. You know, when you wake up in the morning, you will all go and kneel down and greet your parents. So I would kneel down and I would greet my father, and my father wouldn't answer. I wasn't bothered, because as far as I'm concerned, I did what I was supposed to do, which is what is in my control, which is to greet you. You replying my greetings is not in my control. It's in your control. And you know whether you want to do it. So if I do daddy negbia, meaning daddy good morning, as I finish, I don't stand up, waka my own day go. So that was the kind of time, honestly. And even up to today, I do things that are in my control. I do them. Things that are in other people's control, I don't even bother about that. But let me tell you something. One of the things that I took strength from the women around me who were being oppressed and suppressed. And so the more I saw them being oppressed, the more I said to myself, never was I going to be that person who was being oppressed. Never was I going to be that. Because I saw some of this, the women around me, you know, the men weren't doing anything. They were the ones who were going to market, looking for everything, and then they will bring food. Sometimes the man will be angry and refuse to eat the food. And then the woman is asked to go and beg him. That thing used to hit me. I'm like, first of all, you were supposed to provide food. You didn't provide food. I had to, while you're staying at home, I had to go and look for food for you. And then now you're refusing to eat it. And I'm being told to beg you. No. Honestly, to be very honest with you, even my parents thought I wouldn't stay in a man's house because of the kind of mind I have. And I say to people a lot that if not for the kind of husband that a man who I say he is how do I put it now? He's secured in his manhood. A secure man, secured in his manhood, and doesn't feel that he's in a competition with his wife and they has to prove anything. If not for the kind of person I got married to, I probably wouldn't be married up to now, because some of the things I see people do, I'm like, no, how do you tolerate that? Or maybe if I didn't get married early enough, I probably wouldn't have gotten married. Because even my parents used to say they wonder whether I was ever going to stay in a man's house because of the kind of, some of the things I just couldn't tolerate them.
Interesting. Two things. Let's celebrate your husband. We celebrate a confident, secure man. It takes a confident, secure man to allow their wife be secure and confident. So we celebrate your husband. And secondly, I was actually going to talk about, sometimes when you hear your story, I was going to ask if you had strong women around you. But in your case, it was actually the reverse. It was the fact that
it was the reverse. Yeah,
who were oppressed.
Yes. So my own case, I had oppressed women, and I always said to myself, I would not allow myself be that person. I would not. I came from the point of defense. I was never ever going to allow myself be in the position that the women around me, from my mom and my aunties and some of our friends, the kind of position they were in, I never wanted to be in that position. So I was quite defensive, and there was a bit of aggression. So for me, like growing up, I never collected any money from any man, maybe or any gift. I was not interested because I didn't want anybody. I grew up very poor. and I didn't want anybody coming to insult me, or because of they think, oh, they've given you something, or so I never wanted that. And I think somehow, because we are product of our upbringing, and then the things that we have gone through. So there was a bit of anger and a bit of aggression in me in terms of no, I'm not gonna tolerate this. And then one other thing I think that I did share about myself is that I'm a control freak in a way, and I never went out with any man that I was not the one who instigated the relationship. Wow. So I was not one of those that a man will come and meet you, will come and toast you. No. I needed to want you first, all of that. Even my husband, so I wasn't one to sit back and just wait for somebody to come and meet you. All of those that did, I wasn't interested. So I had to be the one who was doing the hunting. So that's to tell you the kind of person I was. And so when I got married to my husband, coming from that point of view of, even when we started a relationship, of that a bit of aggression, a bit of, no, I'm not going to allow what happened to my mom. I'm not going to allow what happened to my aunties. I'm not going to allow what happened to the women around me happened to me. There was a bit of that. So it took a man who is very secure in his mind and to be able to bring that down. And I always say to people, my husband taught me how to say, I'm sorry. And I taught my husband how to say, I love you. So, because these things, I grew up knowing that I wanted a man and a family where we would always say, I love you to each other. Because the first time anybody ever said, I love you to me, I was around 10 years old. And that almost got me to an abusive, this guy was an adult. And then the first time he said to me, oh, Aisha is my girlfriend, I love her. And I'm like, that was the first time anybody ever said I love you to me. And then he sort of like became my pseudo boyfriend. He would write notes to me. I would keep them in my pocket. And then my dad was doing his business, and I would carry eggs and give to him and all of that and things. And one day my mom found the notes in my pocket and my school bag, and she beat the living daylights out of me. The only thing that probably saved me from a molestation in his hands was because I never, in the court, I never stayed with him. So anytime I would see him, I would run away, but he would always send notes through somebody. So for me, after that, I always said to myself, if I get married, I love you would always be part of our relationship, and even our children. And up till today, it's the way we say that to each other 100 times a day.
That's amazing. And I'm just hoping that even the men and the women who are listening are hearing that, because just hearing that alone can save a lot of our children from abuse and things like that. And just looking at the question on screen, do you have a program for educating and enlightening young women and ladies? And I want you, if you do, please share. And again, just if you could, just what you said is just really powerful. If you could actually give people some ways of finding out these things. Many kids don't hear their parents tell them they love them, don't hear family members say they love them. What could be something that could trigger in the mind of a child that we parents can also begin to empower our children, apart from using the words I love you, but give them these signs that they can be watchful and protect themselves from abuse?
One of the things that I do for me, because growing up as a child, I hated commands. I hated to be told, don't do this. I always ask, why shouldn't I do it? And I was that kind of, even as an adult, that's why I'm very law abiding. Whatever it is, I'll follow it, irritatingly follow it to the letter, because I have a big mouth. If anything happens, I will come and, after this. So I was always one who would obey, but I needed to know why. And so as a parent, what I do with my children is to give them information, so that they'll be able to make informed decisions. I see a lot of parents want to tell their children, do this, don't do that. No. Explain to them what are the repercussions. Explain to them what are the things. Right from 2 years old, kids understand things. I'm going to explain to you, don't touch this thing because it's hurt. When you touch it, it's going to burn you. When I'm done with that, the next time, I won't say anything. Even if I see you touching it, you will touch it and it will hurt you and you understand. So informed decision, information is very key. So speaking to your children and letting them know, and sex education should start very early on, as far as 2 years old. There's what they call age-appropriate sex education. Information. There's nothing. I have a 22-year-old. There's no topic we don't talk about. There's nothing we don't. When they were going into their teenagers. I went around the world when I traveled all over the world trying to get books for them, and I checked through different books before I go to get the books on teenage years. And what did we do? We read it together. I read it first of all. I gave it to him. We read it together. I remember I would go drop my son in school in the morning. We will read a part of it. I explain everything to him. So it's very important. Then there was something else that I did with my children. I think when they were maybe between the ages of 7, 8,
wow.
8 and 6, sort of. And I said to them, screaming. You'll be shocked at the number of kids that cannot scream, especially these are our children. So what I did was that when you are in an uncomfortable situation, when you are in a place where you're not comfortable, open your mouth and just start screaming. Wow. Because most molesters and abusers don't like noise. Just open your mouth and just start screaming. And then, of course, adults are going to come around and look and say, what is happening? Beyond that, although even today it's not a topic of it, I think this is important. We need to be consistent in the messages that we give our children. Let me give you an example. There was a time myself and a friend of mine, we were young parents, and she had this little girl that was about 3 years, and we're already talking to her, don't go into so-and-so person's room, don't be there, and on your own, don't enter. So when we finish this conversation with the child, everything, and then the mom says to the child, oh, go and bring so-and-so from me from that room. And I said, no. And I held the child, and I looked at the mom and said, what are you doing? You just told this child not to enter this room, and then you're sending her to the same room. So where is the consistency in the message? How is she supposed to know the time that it is right to enter the room and the time that it's not right to enter the room? So consistency is very important, what you're telling. And then another thing, which is most important, and I think this is the most crucial one to do with the question you asked me, allow your children to have their safe space. Allow your children to own their safe space. If a child says they are not hugging anybody, whoever they are, then the child shouldn't hug that person. Nice. Let your child understand that when they don't feel comfortable in any situation, they have a right to resist.
Wow.
If I see a child, I don't hug children. I first of all ask their permission. And if the child says no, I say, fantastic. Sometimes you find a parent, no. I said no. Don't tell your child to hug anybody. They have a right to say no. And that is the safe space. So what we do as a lot of parents do is that they erode that safe space of children. You have a place, even as adults, there are some people you don't feel comfortable with them, and it's okay. So when the children, go and hug uncle, go and hug auntie, there's something like uncle and auntie. It's not everybody that is uncle or auntie. Even right now, when some people I meet together, I know. I said, no, I'm not Auntie Aisha, I'm Aisha. They need to know the difference between family and not family, and we should be very explicit. This person is Mr. This, that person is Mrs. This. It's not Auntie this or Uncle this. You need to let your children know. So when a child is not feeling safe, they'll be able to know that, even when my parents are here, I don't feel safe, they allow it. So even when your child is not feeling safe, because you are always the one that pushes, go and hug uncle, go and do this, go and do that. Guess what happens? They are not feeling safe, but they are allowing the person who is either that is not making them feel safe come closer to them, because you have eroded their safe space. You have not allowed them to own their safe space where they can say to anybody, no, don't come near me, just stay up there. And it's very important.
This is freedom. I mean, you just gave us a masterclass in parenting right there. That's freedom. Some of the things you said, I haven't heard them that way. So I'm guilty as charged. Wait, you have to greet every uncle and auntie. No, that stopped tonight.
No. Yeah, so stop it. They don't have to.
Someone's asking, how can we transform the customs and traditions to this freedom of self?
The custom.
How can we transform from the customs and traditions to this freedom of self?
So who are the people that set this custom and tradition? You don't even know them. Set your own. It's as simple as that. Own your space. Because that was why I said to my mom when she said it's the custom, and I said to my mom, who is the person that said this custom and said that women have to be the one to enter kitchen and do the cooking? And she was like, it's been there right from generation. The people are all dead. I said, okay, I'm going to set a new one so that the next generation will come and meet a new one. That they will not change it when they want to. So I think You know, the most important thing, and it comes from here, you know, as little children, we wanted badly those labels to be called a good child. So because you wanted those labels, so when you did something, they will pat your head, good child. You grow up as adults, you're still waiting for people to pat your head. So because of that, you're doing all sorts of things that even though you don't want to do them, because the society says that is the way it has to be, you know, you keep doing it. So like I said earlier, the first thing is actually to understand yourself, to somebody said that I've read her journal. Fantastic. And so the first thing is to own yourself, to love yourself, to want to be you and not what other people are saying. So when you do that, you'll be able to do your own thing. Let me give you an example. Like my daughter, my children have never knelt down for anybody. They've never knelt down for me. I didn't bring up my children to be kneeling down for me, but I was brought up to kneel down for others. And even in my own religion, it's not allowed for, you know, somebody to be squatting, either greeting somebody. You greet eye to eye and everything, handshake or whatever it is, or a hug.